Welcome to my channel where we talk to extraordinary people about the afterlife and the impact it can have on our lives. Today's guest is Jay Martin. Jay had his near-death experience in 2016 as a result of a heart attack that left him clinically dead for 24 hours. He's written a book about his life, which I will link below, and has overcome many challenges and continues to do so, making his story truly incredible to share with us today. So grab yourself a cup of tea, sit back and enjoy the show. Yes, Jay, thank you so much for being with us tonight. The reason why I wanted to talk to you is that I think we could say that you had a pretty rough childhood. If that was not enough, all sorts of challenges. So I think you had a couple of deaths in your family. You had a number of medical conditions, lupus, pulmonary embolism, angina. So I'm gonna let you fast track the moment when you get hospitalized and you have your near-death experience.
Trying to see the best way I can put this. Well, when I was diagnosed with the pulmonary embolism in, I think it was 2013 or 12 or something like that, they said it would be fatal, but I didn't think much about it because I was in survival mode, work mode, trying to take care of the kids, But as time progressed, I did everything else. Thought I was supposed to take my medication and everything to, I guess they said that the medicine wouldn't so much as dissolve it, but they were saying that it would keep it from growing, and I'm like, well, I'm like, the goal for me is to dissolve it. I don't want it in general.
Of course.
I don't want to keep it from growing. I just wanted to leave, But I just carried on working hard and everything. And August 17th, the evening of August 17th, I was an employee for Coca-Cola here in Columbus, Ohio. I've been with them for, I want to say, about 18, 19 years at the time. And so I came in from work one evening from work. I want to say it was probably like 10, 11, something like that, late when I was coming in, August 17th. As I came in, I had this funny feeling in my chest, It wasn't painful. It didn't hurt. It was just something that I never felt before, So I just proceeded to do what I usually do when I come home. Started to unwind, and sometimes I'm hard-headed. I start to put things in place, like straighten up the kitchen, this and that. Regardless of time, I just got to keep moving, still to this day.
Absolutely.
But a little challenging today, but yeah, I began to just get situated that evening. I called my friend. I was in the kitchen. I remember this part. I called my friend, called I believe my mom and my girlfriend at the time. We had only been dating for several months. But I called them, but then after I got off the phone, I don't know which one I was the last person I was talking to, but after I've called them, all I know, the next thing I know is I'm waking up in the hospital, probably about a week or so later, hooked up to tubes. I didn't know what happened. Still have the trach spot on my neck and the burn spots from the defibrillators, where they try to bring you to life. Still have the burn spots all over my chest. But yeah, I woke up, hooked up to tubes and everything, not knowing where I was. I looked to the side of my bed, and I saw my mom, and my family sitting there, and the doctor was there. And I did notice like this glow, this aura, like around the family, and the doctor, they were like, Jay, it was like, we're glad you're with us. It's like, do you know where you are? I couldn't speak or anything, of course, because I was hooked up to tubes. They said, you're in the hospital. They said, you had a heart attack. You died. You left us, but you're back now. Didn't think anything of it, Next thing you know, I'm out again. So I was in and out. And what come to find out, they said that I drove myself to the hospital. I don't remember any of this,
Oh, wow.
But they said I drove myself to the hospital, parked my car perfectly. As soon as I walked through the emergency room doors, I immediately collapsed and went to cardiac arrest. It's as if like it's a malakim in Hebrew, but an angel was a spirit or something took over my body and got me to that hospital, because I don't remember doing any of it. And it was like, as soon as I got in that emergency room, it's almost like they just like left and said, we'll leave this up to them, you know? So
Yep.
I coded, went to cardiac arrest. They called it code blue. I believe they came out to resuscitate me, and then coded again. And then I guess they put a stent in my heart, you know, to stabilize me and everything. And they flew me to the nearest other hospital, because I was at Doctor's Hospital when it happened here on the west side of Columbus. So then they flew me to life flight to another hospital called Riverside here in Columbus, where when I got there, they continued to try to keep me together because I coded several more times while I was in the hospital, while I was in that hospital. Meantime, my my girlfriend, who I was like just started dating, she worked in that hospital, you know, and she didn't even know, but she didn't even know what was going on, because she worked on the floor above where I was at, you know, where they had me. So while they were working on me and everything, and they saw me open my eyes, and they said that since I was fighting, they was going to fight with me, you know, which I'm grateful they did. So it had to be like early morning, August 18th. I don't think the sun had even came up yet. So they called my family, let them know what's going on. My kids was here, and they were staying with their mom at the time. And they called my parents in Chicago, because of course that's where I'm from. My sister answered the phone. They told her, of course, they were from the, you know, hospital, and that I was in bad shape and someone needed to come up there with me. And they reacted as you would, you know, ecstatic and everything. So while everybody was getting ready to come up here, and it's about 6 hour drive from Chicago to here, Columbus. So as they started making their way up here and everything, the doctors called them back and said that, sorry, we lost him. You know, he didn't make it. My mom, of course, they still continued to come. You know, it was probably almost like a surreal moment for her, because, you know, she didn't react, you know, but at least that's what she told me, that she just kept coming. They called my children here, let them know what's going on. They stand with their mom. And my son, it was my youngest son, he called my girlfriend and said, Dad died. You know, and she was like, what? So ironically, she had just walked in the house, so she ran right back out to the house to come up to the hospital. So while I was there in the hospital, I was clinically deceased. My heart stopped and everything was stopping. You know, they couldn't do anything for me. When my mom finally got there, she got there like probably late afternoon, you know, August 18th. She got off the elevator, and when she got off the elevator, she was greeted with a waiting room full of people. You know, the doctors thought that it was just people from different places, but they said it was so many people in that waiting room that it was crazy, and it was all for me. You know, grateful that has some people care about me. But when mom got off the elevator, she said, "Okay, where's my baby?" The mother of my children said, "He's gone. He's been gone all day." You know, so she did what you would think a mother would do. She collapsed, you know, and you know, responded accordingly, I guess. So, but the ironic part was that while everything was happening, I didn't know I was deceased. You know, I thought that maybe I was dreaming, but at the same time, I had no fear. I had no emotions whatsoever, but I thought I was sleeping, you know. And I do remember that I found myself like floating down the highway, and it was so ironic that the hospital was right off the highway, off the freeway. So I found myself floating down the freeway. It was gloomy outside, it was dark and everything, and I ended up all of a sudden, because I've told the story so many times that after a while it just gets like, you know, but I found myself by it's like a landmark here in Columbus called the Brewery District. And they had like this statue that was right in front of a Kroger department store. grocery store. So I found myself in front of that, and then all of a sudden I found myself just like it was almost like instant thing inside a tunnel, and this tunnel was like, I mean, it was like all around you, from all sides, above you, below, and everything. And the tunnel was amber, and it wasn't hell. So I wasn't in hell. People that say amber, they was like, no, I wasn't in hell. But the tunnel was amber, and I was walking through it. It was like hands reaching out, of people just reaching out to me, and it didn't feel malicious or anything. But they were just reaching out to me. Next thing you know, by the time I get to the end of the tunnel, it was like almost immediately. Next thing you know, shoot. Next thing you know, I'm in space. And I'm one with space. I knew I existed. I knew I still was. What's the word they say? Conscious. I knew my consciousness was still existing. I was still existing. I didn't have a form because I was part of everything. It wasn't like you could look down and see your hand and everything. No, I was literally part of everything. You know, um, no emotions, no fear, no nothing, no doubt or anything. But as I looked towards I guess in front of me, like what they in the scripture call a footstool, but in front of me, but downward, I saw a planet, and this planet had like energy, energy protruding from it in the form of a tree, you know,
Wow.
and the energy that was coming out of that was coming up in the form of a tree, it was like circulating in and out of the planet. It was just circulating in and out. I mean, it's pretty beautiful sight.
I imagine.
When that first happened, yeah, some people asked me, was it Earth that you saw? I was like, at first I was like, I don't know, but it was a planet. I don't know which planet it was, but I knew that it was energy, and I knew what I saw. Some said it was Earth, and I'm like, I can't say that,
Of
but it
course.
was a planet. So I looked to my left, and everything is dark again, and in space and everything, but that planet and that light, the energy. But then I looked to my left, and I saw what looked like a wormhole of stars, and I noticed it. And then I noticed myself focusing my attention back on this planet again. And it was just so funny that years later, I was doing online, just looking at stuff, and I saw what I saw when I was in space. And the caption under what I saw on a computer said that it was the Andromeda Galaxy. you know. So I was like, wow, it was so cool, But I saw it, and then I saw the planet, and then it's like I heard my voice call, someone saying Jay. I looked around, I didn't see anything. Then I heard it called again, and I don't know the time frame, but next thing you know, it's I don't know how long after that happened, but I'm waking up every now and then while I'm in the hospital. Didn't know what was going on, and it was the best peace I've ever had in my life, you know. And while I was no longer in that body when it happened, my family, they had to make the decision to just say, okay, fill out these papers so we can start this process,
Yeah.
roll them down to the morgue and all that stuff and everything. And my daughter, who was 18 at the time, she was like my next of kin, and she was standing by my mom, and the doctor said that she had to make the choice. She had to
Wow.
sign the papers, and one could guess that's a lot for an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
Had
absolutely.
to finally say goodbye to her dad. And my daughter was like, no, he's still in there. No. And the doctors, my mom was like, no, he's gone. He's not in there anymore. And she was like, yes, he's still in there. And my mother was looking at her and said, this is your decision. And she looked at my mom and started crying and said, she was like, I don't want to do this. My mom was like, you have to. So she was like, just wait another day, please. So the doctors decided to wait, even though they said I was gone. My body had started to swell because there was no blood circulating, of course. My heart was blood circulating any blood. Organs were, pretty much shutting down, if not down. My family went to my house, and they started making memorial plans. They started cleaning out my house. word had got around to my friends in Chicago and everywhere what had happened. They started, everybody started posting things on social media, letting everybody know what happened. It was a lot of RIPs for me. It was posting my picture on there. Some people would share stories. My sister, my cousin, he went on social media and was like, for everybody who didn't know, Jay died last night. And sorry, it's been a minute.
No, no, absolutely. I fully understand. And thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to be also sharing the letter that Coca-Cola sent out, when they sent their
Yeah, yeah,
condolences. And it must have been a bit strange to read
yeah. It
from the.
was because it was between the letter, because I know I did a podcast before. I'm sorry, I haven't got teared up in a while from that, but I did a podcast before, and some of the responses from people was like, it was almost unbelievable. It was like, you should sue the hospital for telling your job all this stuff. I'm like, that makes no freaking sense. But my job was waiting on me to come in that morning, so uh, all the numbers that doctors had, they had to call my job to let them know that I passed away. So everybody from my job, supervisor, they was up there as well. So again, the RIP was said, everything was on social media. I have, did screenshots of those, the condolences letters sent to my family, as you just mentioned, and everything, and memorial plans were being made until the next morning, August 19th, they got a call from the hospital, and it was like, we can't explain it, we don't understand it, but we found a faint pulse. So they were excited, shocked, and my mom was a very religious person, so I'm pretty sure she was thank you Jesus throughout the whole house and everything, and even the way to the hospital. So it came up to the hospital. The doctor said, we don't want you to get your hopes up too high, because even though we found this faint pulse, he's have like a 20-something% chance of survival.
Right.
And if he did survive, we don't know what his quality of life is going to be.
Of course.
Because remember, my brain, everything, oxygen, all that stuff was pretty much going. And it was like, we don't care, keep him on, keep him on. So they kept me on. I think about later on that week, I had 26 strokes.
Wow.
Yeah, from one hemisphere of my brain to the other, all over. And they kept me on. They put me on dialysis, and they put me on this machine called an ECMO machine. My wife said they use it for like children, they usually use it for children. But I guess the ECMO machine was to circulate blood through my body, through my heart, so it can give my heart some rest so it can keep going. So they put me on the ECMO machine, and everything was basically just a waiting game for everybody,
Yeah.
And when I did come to and I started regaining consciousness and everything started getting removed from me and them nursing my organs back and everything, the girl who I just started dating several months earlier, she was there. I noticed that she was there, and I didn't expect that. Some people will be like, after several months and that happened to somebody who just started dating, you'd be like, oh, this is too much, I'm gone.
Yeah,
But
I bet.
she
Yeah.
stayed. Yeah, she stayed. My sister-in-law, she stayed. A lot of people stayed. My best friend from Chicago came up, him and his wife, and he has MS now. Him and the kids and everything. And one day my wife, well, she's my wife now, but one day I was lying in bed and I still had a trach in my throat, couldn't talk, and still just sitting there. And she was holding my hand, and she was just looking at me and still saying things. And I looked over at her, then I looked straight again, and my eyes started watering, and something, I kind of know what it was, told me to say this. And I looked back at her, and I looked up at her, and I moved my mouth, and I said, will you marry me?
Wow.
She said yes, even though the words weren't coming out. So it was a divine thing, and I was inspired by divinity, from every decision that I was making, every feel that I was feeling. Um, that, just being, I just felt amazing, you know. I just felt amazing, until I felt like a child when they fresh when they newborn, and I technically wasn't newborn, until they turned on the television because it happened to be election season here in America, and I started seeing politics, and I started seeing everything that people was doing and news, and I started to get sad. you know, I'm like, what is happening? What is this? It was a sad thing to see. Um, but in that hospital, again, they nursing me back to health. I'm doing therapy, had to relearn how to walk, had to relearn how to talk, had to relearn how to write, had to relearn how to do everything. Even my
Wow.
memory, was gone. I had to remember people and things. But when I left the hospital finally, when I saw outside, I looked. It's like it was like the first time me seeing everything. It's like I had never seen it before. I was looking through the eyes of a newborn, literally. The planes, the trees, the clouds, the buses. It just all looked foreign. It just all looked foreign, and uh, it was like I said. It sounded morbid, just like looking at the condolences letter. It was morbid, but it was the best rest I had ever had. And it was something that I needed because I was a workaholic. I was always working to take care of my family. I was always just busy, and the only thing that kept me from snapping while I was doing all that was my meditation practices that I had picked up several years before. And it was the only thing that kept me going, but I needed that rest. So now that I'm back, I had a second chance. I'm relearning how to do everything. I'm relearning how to get used to my arms walking again. Everything was new, and it was like everywhere I went for my checkups, my girlfriend at the time was my wife. She would call off, just to take me to my appointments, my therapies, and she was very supportive, and the joke is the funny part was that it's like, wait a minute, she experienced what they say till death do us part. We wasn't even married yet, only several months into it. It was like that's a bunch, you know. But yeah, she had my back. She had my back, and I felt that I made the right decision. And it wasn't an easy task just getting back into the groove of things because now that I was what they considered disabled, I could no longer work at my job anymore. So after a year, they had to let me go. My home also had to file bankruptcy, and I lost my home. Um, Now I'm trying to figure out how to piece things back together. But at the same time, I'm still peaceful while I'm thinking about these things. But it didn't just become the outside world that made it just difficult. It was just now my health. I couldn't do most of the things that I did anymore. Now, my now things were like vertigo. I had vertigo, a traumatic brain injury. The room is most of the time, almost all the time, seem like it's spinning. And according to my neurologist, there's nothing they can do about it because the nerve has something has been severed.
Right.
I've been sick every day, but I've gotten used to it. Well, you never get really used to getting sick, but I took it as part of my normal now.
No.
Nerve damage, neuropathy, on top of my lupus and my asthma. My anxiety took a back seat, so I'm grateful for that because I used to have anxiety attacks all the time. Um, and then something happened that I would never expect it to happen. Um, with my meditations, I would start to meditate, and then I would start to feel certain feelings opposite of my health. A sadness of feelings and things, and but then it would go away shortly, maybe a couple of days. I couldn't understand it until one day I got that feeling. I'm like, something is just not right. It's some sadness, something is happening. And then a couple of days later, then it was a train derailment in Washington, state of Washington here, a couple of states. So I was like, wow, didn't think much of it, but I was like, it's just funny that it happened that way. Not funny for their shit, their cases, but as time went on, it would still happen. Then I had it again, days, and I was like, okay, why do I keep having these sad feelings and these feelings of despair on and off, opposite of my sicknesses? And I would have it again, then to go away. And then, as you know, I turned on television a few days later. It was the mass shooting in Las Vegas. I was like, okay, this is starting to become a little eerie. Maybe this is a coincidence or something, And then I said, okay, let me do my meditations again as I do. And they would come and go, so I wouldn't get these visions all the time. But then I had another one day, and then it was like, I posted on social media, I said, something is going to happen. Something is about to happen. A serious thing is about to happen. It's going to affect everyone in the world. I'm like, I can't put my finger on it, but it's going to affect everyone in the world. And then the feeling went away. The next day, the George Floyd incident happened.
That was the next day.
And I was,
oh, wow.
The next day. Yeah. And I was told my wife I get goosebumps and getting them now and everything. And she was like, because like I said, sometimes she's very stoic with her, the way she sees things and stuff. But I was like, why am I seeing these things? But I don't know if I can, but if I can't prevent them, because people don't know me and it's not like they're going to believe me, So I just go on with my life, keep doing what I'm doing, keep meditating again, because again, this was also helping me as it did before everything happened.
Yeah.
And then one of the most recent ones was that, and this was like, I think a year before last or whatnot, I was meditating, and I usually, when I meditate in my stepson's, in his closet. It's not funny, but it's really dark in there, and I like quiet and being in that mode when I can do it. So I was meditating, and then I started seeing these visions, and they were so vivid. I came out and I told my wife, and I said, you know what? I just had this vision. I said, it was soldiers, they were marching, they were fighting against each other. I said, but they're from like the same place, they were like from the same place, but they were fighting against each other. I said they had on green and almost like a red stripe in their hat and everything. I want to say Russia or something like that, but they're fighting against each other. She said, I don't know what that means. I said, I don't either. And it was I think it took about a month or so after that, then I started hearing and find out that Russia and Ukraine end up having a war. So I was really like, whoa. Okay, seeing these things, I'm grateful, and it's a lot, and some may consider it a vision. But I prayed, and I was like, this is too much for me, because every day I'm trying to keep it together and use this energy to keep from fainting and whatnot because of my illnesses. But now I get these visions and stuff like that. I'm like, it's just too much. So I would pray, and I would, ask my creators, like, just please take it away from me. Just, it's too much. I mean, just please for right now, and it stopped for a while, and then when I felt like I was, because sometimes I'm hard-headed, even when my body says stop, my mind was like, keep going, so I was like, okay, I think I can do it again. I think I had a little rest time. Then he gave it to me again. And then, like I said, they would come and go. And then I had another one. This was, I want to say, 2022. I was having a vision. It was like in December. I had another vision of a pileup, a car pileup. It was the number 610. And it was some other stuff. I think it said red boat or whatever, some other things. And then later on that day, there was a pileup here on a highway here in central Ohio. Right. There was a car pileup because of the snow, and it was on mile marker 610. You know,
Wow.
yeah, and it was just something, but I was starting to get used to it, but then I don't know, sometimes it would just come and go, and I just stopped paying attention to them after a while because like my health kind of progressed a bit as far as my condition, but it's just been a roller coaster. I'm grateful nonetheless to be here. I experienced everything for a reason, and I'm just, I'm gonna say, riding a wave, even if it's bumpy. You know, still grateful to be here. You know,
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing. Well, practically
of
against
course.
all odds, you proved everyone wrong. I mean,
Yeah,
you're practically a miracle. So you came back.
grateful, brother.
What I love about the cover of your book is that you specified the two dates of birth, right? So there's
And
a
yeah, you caught that. Yeah.
yeah, this really nice touch, I think. No, it's brilliant, and having spoken to a number of NDEs, they all feel about the same. That was a very pivotal moment in their life where life doesn't really, there's no turning back. A bit like the red pill in the Matrix, right? Once you take it,
Yeah.
you right, you can't really undo
Yeah,
that, which is great.
definitely.
Okay, well, I have so many questions. I don't know how much time we have here. But first of all,
But they,
what's interesting is that although these are very relevant experiences, people fail to realize that the integration doesn't come right away. You also had to deal with the readjusting of your physical form, right? You had to relearn to walk, to move. You were talking about your memory as well. So all these functions, as well as being able to make sense of an experience that obviously you knew very little about. So yeah, I'd be curious to know how was your integration process?
well, um, integration process, again, it was a bit, it was, obviously, it was really tricky because after what I experienced, I was literally, and this is not, and figuratively, this is no embellishment. I was walking now with one foot in the spiritual world and one in the physical world. You know, I had insomnia for, because it happened. I had insomnia for about 3, 4 years after that.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't sleep. You know, it's as if, because it's as if my consciousness or my spiritual part was doing most of the driving of
Hmm.
this body, if it makes sense. So
Yep.
the spiritual part didn't have any need for sleep. You know, didn't have any need or desire for rest. You know, so I couldn't sleep, but my body was like, "You, we still over here. We need some rest every now and then."
Absolutely.
So it was very hard. And then when I did start to finally get to sleep, I would wake right back up because I would kind of get almost, it's not saying that I'm afraid of death, but I would get afraid a bit because I thought I would think that I'm deceased again because I thought I was sleeping last time, but I really wasn't here. So it's like if I fall asleep again, am I not here again if I go do that route? You know? And again, it wasn't so much that I was afraid, it was that I felt that it was something I was came back for a reason that I had something to do. So it was almost like I'm not ready to go back yet, you know. So it was like I was uncertain. Um, but then I was starting to get more comfortable with sleep. And this is, like I said, it literally took me about, I want to say about 5 years to start getting comfortable to getting sleeping again.
Wow.
You know, and when I did, I would only sleep for like maybe a couple hours. I would wake up and couldn't get back to sleep again. You know, next thing you know, I'm up the whole day up until the next one. So I will probably get about maybe lucky 3 hours of sleep a day, if that. You know, I would get sick, more sick because of that, nauseous. Didn't know why. I went to a gastro uh, and do whatever they call what they look into your stomach, make sure everything okay. They did tests, and it was like there's nothing wrong in there. And so that was one of the ways we knew that that was also a neurological part that happened from my thing. But I started to get used to sleep. I did. I started to get adjusted to that. But it seems, and I told somebody this the other day, even though this was, I want to say about 8 years ago, it still feels like it was only yesterday. I'm still getting used to it. And honestly, it seems a bit rougher to get used to it because I feel everything. If I didn't, when I was telling you earlier, I feel so many things. I feel so many emotions, and it's not so much as the people around me. It's practically everything universal, and I feel these emotions and this despair. So now that it seems like some people say the world is on fire, but it seems like so many wars and so many sadness going on. I feel these things, and that makes it harder. It brings me back to that. Now it's, what do you do? You know, I started seeing a therapist, and she was like, you still have to be happy. You can't let yourself feel bad from everything that's happening on. You still have a life. I said, I understand that. I said, but this is one of those things you can't just turn off.
You can't really
Because,
force, can you? Right.
yeah, you can't. It's like these people around this world, I said, this is my universal family. I have a connection to them. It's like seeing something happen to your brother or your sister or your family member. You don't just walk around and still be happy and happy go lucky when your family is hurting, and that's how it feels. So that integration and just experiences that come with it makes it pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that it's not always easy for people who, like yourself, you spoke earlier about premonitions, which is a relatively common post effect, right, after an experience
Mm-hmm.
like that. And it's not something they can easily switch on and off. So obviously you become a lot more
Right.
sensitive to the people around you as well. But okay, no, that's great. I'll be curious to know if before the experience you believed in life after death.
Well, my mom was a heavy, like I said, churchgoer. She still is a heavy religious person, Baptist. And when we was little, she used to take us to church until we got to the age to where we can make a decision. And she said, if you don't want to go, you don't go. So we was like, cool. So we stopped going. So, but I started to become what they consider spiritual. I started reading and doing, uh, reading in history about everything and spiritual things. I started reading more understanding of the Bible, and I would read what the Bible would say about things and everything, but it never crossed my mind about what it was like, being deceased. It really never crossed my mind. And it wasn't so much that I didn't believe in it, it just never crossed my mind. I used to hear so much about um, what I guess the Hindu, they talk about karma, not as much as karma, but life after death, people coming back, reincarnation. I used to hear about it, but it was like one of those things where it's just like come in one ear, out the other. Cool, it is what it is. And then the fact that I was on work mode, taking care of the family and everything. I wasn't thinking about anything else but making sure, how to figure out if we're going to have food or if I'm going to pay a mortgage,
Yeah.
you know, make that decision. So it never crossed my mind. However, I did hear, and I would hear others talk about it, like on television, or just see a movie talking about people who, died and they crossed over and they, saw their parents and their family and everything. Even so much as when people said in the scriptures about seeing a mansion, the glass walls of the kingdom of heaven and everything. I would hear these things, of course, and I didn't think anything of it. But when it actually happened to me, and I didn't see any of that, I didn't experience any of that. And I think that's what made some people skeptical when I did podcast interviews, because sometimes they would hear others talk about seeing family members or parents and everything. And they was like, I guess it was almost seemed as if they wanted to some people wanted to hear the things because it was for entertainment. just so they can be wild, or somebody to say something that they're familiar with, But being that this was my experience and that I didn't experience that, um, it gave me a different outlook. It gave me a more clearer outlook on what's to come when you make that transition. And it solidified to me that no one truly dies when you make this transition. You never really die. You literally, spirit or consciousness usually literally leaves this body, but your consciousness and your being never dies. It still exists. And when it exists, you are aware of it, because now you are part of not just the consciousness that was harboring this body, you are part of the ever knowing consciousness that, of knowing everything. So not seeing those things, I wasn't disappointed because I wasn't expecting them. I didn't know what to expect. I was deceased. I didn't know I was deceased. But it just let me know for certain that no one truly dies. No one truly dies, and you still continue to exist. And if there's nothing else that you will be familiar with from the physical world, it's about the entity of love. Because I found out that love is not an emotion, it's not a feeling, it's an entity. Just like the creator, and just like, believe it or not, hate. These are entities. Because when you hear about scriptures about Hillel, Satan, saying he was an angel, one of the most powerful angels and whatnot.
Lucifer,
He got tempted by hate itself. So that means that hate has been around long before man has been around. And love is the same way. So when you love your family member, or you love someone here, that means you are choosing to accept that entity or that spirit of love, to share with others. Because love can be at all places at all times and with anyone. And it's there for the taking. And just like, what does they say? Free will. You have free will to choose it. You have free will to let it in your life. And you also have free will to choose that other entity, that causes destruction, and because of my experience, I was able to have a firsthand approach and experience with that entity of love, and knowing, and it was just amazing to know that, But yeah, it's for me and for what I experienced, I know that you don't die. You never die. And some people are like, well, you didn't, didn't you? If you didn't see your cousins, and nobody, and because my cousin passed away, I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I can tell you it happened. And I even got my condolences letter. I got the medical records. I have my social media posts, and I have my body, and the fact that I'm still here. It prove and show to you that my experience was real. It wasn't dreamed. It wasn't made up. And I'm not saying that anybody's experiences was made up. I don't want anybody to believe that, think that I'm saying that. But I'm saying that for me, this was my experience. And nevertheless, if someone believes me or not, I know what I experienced. And I know that when I make that transition, and when everyone make that transition, your consciousness will still exist. For sure.
It's about the knowing, the direct experience. It's not like a belief. It's not that you believe in life after death. When you have a system of beliefs, as long as someone can provide you with some more accurate information, you can still change your mind on that. Whereas once you had experience, I know that for you, that there's no turning back.
Right, exactly. And it's like, and the thing is, sometimes it's like, it's not the point or the goal for us to show or prove to anyone that these things happen. And when I tell of my story or whatnot, and it's not to prove to anybody or show proof or anything, it's to give inspiration and to give comfort, to let people know that when their family members make that transition, that they're not gone. They still here and they still exist. And that love, which is an anchor, still ties you two together. And because that person, that loved one that made that transition, still aware of their consciousness, they're still aware of them being who they are, that love is still felt by them. And that love that you have for them is still felt by them. So having that comfort sometimes is what I want. One of the things that I want to convey and share with people. One of the reasons I tell this story.
Well, I truly believe that in the 70s, which is pretty much when we started to use the defibrillator and the CPR very extensively, this is where, for the first time in history, a lot of people came back from the dead and came to tell stories. And it feels to
Mm-hmm.
me that this is, well, the kind of the beginning of a near-death studies, whereby hopefully it's going to set the foundation for a much more spiritual society in the decades to
Yes,
come. Do you feel this is where society is heading at the moment, despite the craziness happening in the world?
I do. I do. I agree. I believe people are becoming more spiritually awakened and spiritually aware of their consciousness and who they are. You know, I do. Fortunately, I think because there's with everything, there's always two parts.
Yeah.
I think people are becoming more aware of it. However, I think some older people, uh, this is thing that they say here that a lot of older people of a certain age are stuck in their ways and have no intentions on changing the way they believe. So the fact that it's a lot of more younger people who are starting to become aware, who are starting to tap into that consciousness or even want to know who they are.
Yes.
I think it's moving in that direction, and it's going to outpace those who believe in nothing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, no,
you
no,
know,
absolutely, and we've seen this in history uh, so often. Like people forget that whenever there's like an invention, like the telescope, that people for the first time could say, "Look, the boat is going down. You can see the Earth is round. Come on, man! Can you see for yourself? You don't need to believe me." And but people forget that sometimes it takes, especially then when there was no internet whatsoever, that it would take
Mhm.
decades, if not centuries, for as you say, the majority, to get to that realization. And of course, today we
Yeah.
still have flat earthers, so there are always going to be exceptions. But it feels to me that we are repeating a similar pattern, whereby in the next decades to come, more and more people will accept that there is life after death, and then you start to see society reforming.
Yeah,
So,
and
so it's
I'm humble to
brilliant.
accept. Yeah, what's funny, what's ironic is that when it comes down to scriptures and things and relating to the things that's going on in this world now, a lot of times the scriptures, like a lot of the prophets and people who the created chose to do things, they a lot all of them were going through something, before they made it to where they were. And I don't think, and I feel that the people who believe in nothing and those who chose to get inspired by that other entity of hate, whatnot, I don't believe these people understand what they're doing, because what
Yeah,
they're doing is they're creating the environment for people to become more spiritually aware. They are creating the environment for people to start to become more awakened, you know, because from my experience personally, I know that when you're going through something, when you're going through your hardest times, when you feel like there's no way out, is the times where you start to find yourself. It's the times where you start to become, and sometimes beyond what you was even conceiving. Sometimes you start to become more spiritually awakened. You start to find anything, whatever it is that would get you grounded or that would keep you going, that would give you that strength to keep going. Like for me, everything that I was going through, the illnesses, the losses of family and everything, when I chose meditation, because I was looking for something just to keep me sane, you
yeah,
know. I was looking for something to help get me out of this chaos that I was going around my world. And meditation did it for me. It helped me find myself and understand my consciousness and my spirituality and who I am. And it's going to do the same for all those who are going through these things in this world. The people that's displaced in the Congo, the people in Gaza, the people in Ukraine, Russia, everywhere these people here, everywhere people are experiencing things, these are the places where you're going to find a lot of people are going to start to find who they are. Their spiritual evolution is going to shoot up, So it's like they are these people that chose the other thing. Their help, it may sound funny, but they are kind of helping the world to wake up.
Oh, I completely
You
agree.
know,
I mean, the phoenix needs
yeah.
to rise from the ashes, right? So I do think all these wars, despite they obviously bring a lot of suffering, they unfortunately help advance mankind. So it's
Hmm.
inevitable, but I think things will change. So I'm very hopeful for the next decades to come.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very optimistic with you too, my friend.
Oh, that's very
Very
nice. So,
optimistic.
so pleased to hear, buddy. That's great,
Indeed.
man.
Indeed.
What's your idea of God after your experience?
Whew. I'm gonna try to see if we can say dumb down, but to try to see if I can do this. But my idea of God is that God is everywhere and in everything, celestial, terrestrial, everywhere and everything. And I feel and I believe that God can be misinterpreted as being as vulnerable as we are in the physical
Wow.
body. I feel that God is not the way some people perceive him. And then sometimes it throws people off when you say him or her. Um, Perceive him to be like them. God does not have the sadness, does not have the anger, does not have the envy, the emotions, all the things that keep man sometimes running in circles. That is not God. God is everything, everything, everywhere, and in everything. And oh my gosh, it's and that's just this not even scratching the surface on the idea of God. It's almost like you can't really explain. It's like, and to try would like drive you crazy because
Our
it's almost
brain are
like you
not
can't even really
desi
explain them.
Yeah, our brain are not
Yeah,
designed to conceive such a complex
exactly. It's something
notion.
similar to with Buddha, the story of Buddha, when he was meditating and Buddha was continuously searching for enlightenment. And that's why he did it so long,
Yeah.
constantly searching for enlightenment and noticing that there was no limit, that there was no ceiling to enlightenment. It just went on and on and on. And it's just so he ended up finding out in more ways than one that the no ceiling of enlightenment goes way beyond the mortality of the physical body. There's not enough time or even enough time for you to even catch up to what they say God, or what they say to create reality, to consciousness. So yeah, I just believe he's in everything and everywhere and everyone and all things, from the living to the perceived living, to rocks, to the trees, the sky, the air we breathe, the things we see. I just feel that God is just eternal, eternal in everything and indescribable. And when he say he created us in his image, yeah, he created us in his image, our consciousness, our being, created us in his image, but he formed us from the things of this earth and the things of the universe. Created and formed is two different things. You can create something in your mind, but you can form something physically. And when he created us in his image, he created us in his image, eternal. Our existence and our consciousness is eternal, never ending, never dying, forever living, everywhere at all times,
Yeah,
without limit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think he or she created us?
I can't say. I don't know. I feel that the physical body and the reason we're here, because everything that came from our creator, and that's everything that came from our creator. And it's not to say our creator is good or bad, you know. It's just that when people or when entities or when things separate themselves or choose or try to separate themselves from eternity, from our creator, that's when that duality comes in. So us being here, I believe it's a way for us to find our way back to understanding who we are. It's almost like one of those trial periods. you know, when it was trial periods, like, okay, I put you here. Well, while you're here, physically, you're going to experience all kinds of things, triumphs, lows, highs, uh, hurt, pain. You're going to experience all these things. But at some point, you are going to realize that you are not these things. You're going to realize that you are part of something where you don't have to feel those things. And this would help to remind you who you are experiencing these things. This will help us to remind us who we are. Some people, you know how they say, just like on the Matrix, they don't want to take that other pill. It feels good not knowing, but we're here so we can learn. And we have that choice, that free will to choose. But these are learning things to help us realize our potential, realize who we are, and that we can create beautiful, non-degrading things beyond this plane of existence. So I feel we're here to learn how to be reunited with who we truly and really are. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's great, man. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from your NDE?
Wow. Excuse me. One is to not take anything for granted. When I was in the hospital and the therapist came into the room and they were like, okay, it's time for your therapy. And I was like, what do I need therapy for? So I proceeded to try to move and get myself out of bed, and I almost tried to stand, and I found out my legs wasn't working. And I was like, what is happening? And so they did the therapy, and I had to relearn how to take one step at a time, and it took a minute. But I learned not to take anything for granted. It's never too late to love, and people should start learning to love or learning to accept love in their life more often than not. And the realization that I'm eternal, my being is eternal, and that feels good, I guess. It feels good because I know a lot of people. Yeah, I've learned a lot of people are afraid of death. A lot of people are afraid of not knowing what to expect after that transition. And to know that it's nothing scary to expect, and to know that you don't have to worry and no doubt, no fear, and none of the things that tie you down to this realm, your true being, and to know that you are that. That's a good feeling. That's like somebody saying here on the physical earth, like somebody saying, you know what? I'm related. I'm related to royalty. You know how they feel? Like, yeah, I feel good. I'm related to royalty. It's that same feeling where you're like, man, I'm part of everything in reality. And when I leave this body, I'm still existing. I'm part of everything that created everything. It's like what do you say to that? That's it's almost like an honor, an honor to be in that position. I say the transition of leaving this body is honorable, but unfortunately, the way people get to that point of transition of leaving this body, a lot of those things aren't honorable. If you do it by old age, natural life, natural causes, those are, and you make that transition, it's like it's an honor to make that transition. But when somebody do it inhonorably and they take it from you, of course, that's not a good thing. That makes it here on this physical world a little rougher, but it is an honor to be part of everything. And when somebody tried to degrade you from racism or from bigotry or whatever it is, they try to degrade you and you actually know who you are, it's like ain't nothing you can say to me. I know I'm part of everything. I'm part of what created you. How you gonna degrade? There's nothing you can do to degrade me. Heck, my creator made you. Yeah.
Even if you're
So
not aware of
it's
it. Yeah, we're relating,
yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like even if you're not aware of it, you will someday.
You
Hopefully, it's
will.
on your own terms, you know. But yeah, knowing that is the biggest lesson that I learned, and that part is beautiful, and it sticks with me every day just to be aware of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
love
I
that.
try to tell people often, they're like, "How can you hate somebody? How can you love somebody you don't know?" I'm like, "You think you don't know them, but you came from the same place. You know, why not love them? You come from the same place. It's like say they cut from the same cloth. You come from the same place. The things they choose, of course, is free will, but you still come from the same place. How could you not say you don't know them or not love them? And how could you hate someone because you actually hating yourself if you're hating someone?
Yeah.
So it's it's a lesson. I regret nothing. I take nothing back. Every experience I learned in this life, whether it was troublesome, whether it was hard, whether I thought I wasn't going to get out of it, dying, all the experiences, I wouldn't take anything back because it helped me to acknowledge and know who I truly am. And it's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it
It
came at a
is.
high price, but yeah,
Yeah, very much. Very much so. Very much so. So, yeah, I tell people, my wife, she loves space, right? She loves science and space. And she said, "Ooh, that is so nice. I would really like to see space. I want to see what you experienced." I said, "You can, but you don't have to die seeing it." you know?
well,
I said, "You can,
that raises a very
yes,
interesting point because so I have a number of people, including my son, who tells me, "Yeah, I'd love to have an NDE," and I tell him, "Well, I don't think you know what you're asking for because obviously that
right,
means
because
you
it
have
might not come back."
yeah, exactly. You have to die. You have to go through a lot of hustle. You have to get back into a body that's is in most cases
Yeah,
broken. So it's the cost
yeah.
is
You're like, you sure you want
it's so
now
the question
meditation?
is yeah, exactly.
Go
Well,
ahead.
so the question is there anything you think people who have not had a near-death experience can do to actually come to terms with the notion of the afterlife?
Meditation is so, it's so ironic that you said that. That was the answer. What I'm saying. I think and I feel that people should indulge more and get more interested in meditation. Um, there were times in the scriptures where it says that Yeshua, who they call Jesus, meditated in some cases. We know that the Buddha meditated. We know that, in the Vedas, that I think, how they just, the gurus and um, I forgot their name, but the ones who wrote the Vedas, they all meditated for a reason because these are ways to connect you and to help you experience who you really are and what you're a part of. Because people would ask me, they would say, what was it like when you died? What was it like? And I would say the best way I can experience it is what I experienced through meditation. And when you meditate and you keep trying, it'll be rough at times because a lot of people got things going on through their head. It'll be rough at times, but just like everything, you read a book so you can get knowledge. You exercise so you can get strong. You do the same thing with meditation. You keep practicing at it to get it, and sometimes it don't take a day. Sometimes it can take months or years, but you keep practicing at it. And there will come a point in time to where all that outside noise will just quiet when you're meditating. You just won't hear anything. And there were times where you just be still, where you would just be in everything. You just be part of everything and you just there and existing. And then there's those times when you get deep, deep, deep into that meditation to where you actually leave your body, your consciousness actually leave this body and you start experiencing things. You start going out there into space and different realms and things like that. When you can do that with meditation. I've experienced it a couple of times. And that's why I say that where I was when I did make that transition, I'd been there before. I've been able to experience something similar to that when I was meditating. So like I said, it don't happen all the time. You got to practice. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But practicing meditation is not just it's not just something you do. It is part of who everyone is. You have to become, that helps you become part of who you are. It helps you become part of everything that you are. Practice it. It can get complicated, but practice it. There are different avenues and methods to where you can learn, but I say keep learning how to practice meditation if you want to experience this. And I can tell you that it also helped you it'll help you remove the fear of death too, as well. It will.
I love that. Thank you so much. Jay, I think we could be talking here
Good.
forever. I have one last question for you that I usually like to finish off this chats with. What's the meaning of life for you?
Oh man, the meaning of life is, for me, is love. First thing that came to my mind, the meaning of life is to love. Because when you love, you are willingly accepting the things that come with it. You are willingly accepting life. Love is life. Yeah. Because I think that I talked about love before it happened, but I talk about it more, and I include it with everything after it happened, because I know that to love is to create, to love is to not put your fellow human in harm's way. To love is to build. To love is to support. To love is to establish a connection, a good connection. Love is everything. Love is life. Yeah.
Well, I think with that, there's nothing else that needs to be added. Jay,
Right.
thank you so much again. Wishing you all the best. And
Thank you again too, my
bye
friend.
for now. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell notification button to be notified of the next episode. Until then, enjoy the stream we all call life and live the love you want to see in the world. Bye for now.